and we're good.
All right. So hello, everybody. I am Camille Leon, your faithful founder of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. And today's, I was going to say telecall, but it's really a webinar, obviously, is From Published to Bestseller, How to Get From Here to There. I am so pleased to introduce our featured guest specialist, member, expert, Teresa de Grosbois. She is an international speaker. She is a #1 international bestseller for her book, Mass Influence. Notice how neatly it's placed up in the background. Very smart, subtle marketing. She has been covered on media across North America and spoken in cities around the world, including India, London, Munich, and throughout North America. She's also the founder and chair of the Evolutionary Business Council. And they are an international council of speakers and influencers all over the world. Of course, focusing on teaching the principles of success. Great partners, and actually many of the EBC members are also members of the HCC. It's a really nice synergy for both organizations. Teresa teaches authors and speakers around the world to create word-of-mouth epidemics, like what she's helped with at the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, and specializes in working around your books in powerful influence conversations. All right, Teresa, take it away. Oh, wait. You know what? I'm wondering if, we'll let you take it away. You do your little piece, and then we'll move into the topic in more detail.
Beautiful. Okay. You know what I think would make this call really powerful is if I got a sense of what you guys are working on, because I can use real live examples of what you're working on as we speak. So I'd love to know kind of where you're at. Are you just starting out writing? Do you already have a written book, but you don't know how to publish it? Do you already have a published book, but you don't know how to get it on the bestseller list? If you want, everybody can just unmute themselves and come on and talk for a minute, or you can type it in the chat field if you're not comfortable just speaking on the call. But I find it funner if we just talk face to face. There's only a few of us here, so let's make this powerful. Who wants to go first? Wave at me and I'll call you. Okay, Oksana, do you want to go first?
Yes, I do have a published book. It was self-published and written in 2 weekends, which made it a little less than perfect, but I got it out. And marketing it would be learning how to market it.
Okay, and tell me what your book is called and what it's about.
It's called You Well, the Wellness Program.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. And who else wants to tell me about their project? Christina.
Becky Lee, and I have a book that I have done as far as I can. It's called My Life is a Song. And so music, and the composer write music, and then I've done my part, and then I have somebody that's currently going to be doing all the music composition as well as the authorship. I believe I've got a publisher that does a lot of self-publishing, and just kind of how to get it to the marketplace, and it's a story of my life, and so that's and music has carried me through every hard situation.
Okay, beautiful. And who else wants to tell me about their project? Christina.
I have a book called How Ugly Awkward Dancing Changes Everything.
I love it.
And thank you. And I self-published it, so I did a full Kindle launch and got it to be an international #1 bestseller. And I recently decided to get it published by Create Space in soft cover. And I liked writing it, but marketing it, not so much.
Awesome. Who else wants to tell me about their project? Go ahead. Amy.
Hi. Amy Garber from Ann Arbor. And that rhymes. Hi, Camille. So I have a book that's still in manuscript form. I'm still writing. That has to do with New Age principles that helped me get through a situation in my life where my fiance had cancer, and people were telling me, you should write about this. Everybody should hear about this. So.
Beautiful, beautiful. And is it Brachia, or how to say your name?
Bricia. Hi. I'm sorry.
I was way off. Bricia, what a beautiful name. Do you have a project on the go?
Oh, I actually do. I self-published a book called The Spiral of Creativity, Mastering the Art of Spirited Life.
Mm.
Creativity coaching guide with interactive activities, little simple art projects, everything around the spiral. And the chapters follow the acronym, the spiral. So it's spirited, passionate, intuitive, real, authentic life choices. Mm. So it's something that you read through and you do the exercises, and it's a personal development self-awareness book. And I published it in 2014, just months before I made a major life change move from California to Washington. I've sold hundreds of them, but never really marketed or distributed the book in the way that I had planned to do. So I'm not really sure whether I'm going to try to do an updated edition and kind of relaunch, or if at this point I just need to get some distribution going. I need help.
Beautiful. Okay, so that gives me some context. So I'll, to the greatest extent possible, I'll kind of weave in talking about your specific projects as we go. And I'm keeping the chat screen open. I'll do my best to watch both. And Camille, you can jump in and help me as we go. One of the reasons Camille and I wanted to do this call today and dive into this even deeper at the annual convention that's coming up in Manhattan Beach near Los Angeles is that really, all of you in the Holistic Chamber are delving into the realm of thought leadership. Anytime you're pushing out new ideas and new ways of thinking, you're moving into the realm of thought leadership. And the problem with thought leadership is there's no university course you can take on how you be a thought leader, right? The whole purview of leadership is that you're the one that's setting the course and making it up and enrolling other people in following you, right?
Right.
And so the one thing we do know, though, is a best-selling book can be a really great tool along that road to give you the credential to help you get on stages, have a bigger following, have more people listen to you. A best-selling book is almost a gift you give to your following so they can get out of their own way in terms of their own inner dialogue and believe that you can really help them. And because, you all, I know I'm preaching to the converted. You guys all get this. The biggest thing in most of our way is our own inner dialogue that stops us in any situation, including, is what this person telling me trustworthy and believable? And a best-selling book provides a level of social proof that helps others get past their own inner dialogue about whether they can trust you and let you help them. And so it really significantly helps you increase your impact on the world, not only for the reach that the book gives you, but for the credibility and the trust factor that it gives you in terms of having other people get out of their own way. So for me, because I think a lot of you probably know me, I've actually worked with a few of you, and Christina, it's great to see you again. And for a lot of you, you get that this is not about you, this is not an ego thing. It's about having a tool in your toolkit that allows you to have greater impact on the world. And, Camille and I share this passion, right? Which is, how do we really have an impact on the world that people find ways to live better on this planet, to live better lives, have more powerful relationships, live healthy, and live on purpose and on fire, right? On fire, I mean lit up, right? So let me create some context for this conversation that I think is probably the space most of you are at. And that is, first of all, where does a book fit in your toolkit? And because, the problem is a lot of people don't really understand the publishing industry. They don't understand where to put a book in your marketing kit. And, the reason that Camille and I keep coming back to this topic, and I'll be speaking on this in Los Angeles as well, is this is one of the most foundational stones in your house that you're building in terms of it all working. Because really a book can become part of your marketing funnel. And I'm sure all of you know what a marketing funnel is, right? You have this outer funnel, which is where you're reaching people on very free or low cost items, and then you slowly draw people toward you as they get to know, like, and trust you. And as they get to know, like, and trust you, they start, and it's not about price, but they start buying higher priced items. But really what it is greater impact items, right? Things that can affect them more. And so in parallel, you should start to be able to have more profound impacts on people's lives as you also make more money. And if you build your funnel correctly, both of those things will work in tandem, right? And so the first thing to think about is, and this is one area that a lot of people don't understand. I think somebody's got a phone ringing in the background, so I'll just get you guys to manage your own mute buttons. If there's noise where you are, if you could just hit the mute. The mute's down in the lower left. Really publishers, and when I say publishers, there's a whole gamut of what we call a publisher these days, right? 30 years ago, there was only one meaning of the term publisher or publishing. Now there are numerous, there's a whole scale out there, right? On the one end, we have mainstream traditional publishers. And on the other hand, we have fully taken control of the publishing process and becoming your own publishing house, in essence, and completely self-publishing your book. And then there are degrees of hybrid models in between those, where you pay someone to self-publish. There are also mainstream publishers that will treat you like you're a mainstream published book if you commit to buying 20,000 copies of your own book. So self-publishing, but it's closer toward the mainstream publishing model. And a lot of authors don't really know where to fall on that spectrum. So, usually what I teach, and I teach this in my advanced programs, I've got a whole module on this, is that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. It really depends on what you want your book to do for you and where it fits in your marketing funnel, right? But that having said, there's things that tend to work best. And so for most people, a book is not a product. A book is the equivalent of a very expensive business card that you would give someone. It's a marketing piece. It allows people to get to know, like, and trust you so that you can have influence in their lives, right? And so, for example, Mass Influence, when we launched it, we gave the Kindle version away for free. Because for me, Mass Influence is a relationship builder. It's people's first opportunity to have an experience of me and what I teach as someone who grows thought leaders. And so when they read Mass Influence, they're invited to then participate in another free program, my 30-day influence challenge. Some of you may have done it. And that then gets them into my world of influence, or my sales funnel, if you want to speak in marketing terms. And I feel awkward always using marketing terms because I hate boiling people down to numbers. And I know you guys are with me here, and yet sometimes it's helpful to talk about it from a marketing perspective. Because when you hear marketing speak, I want you to hear, how many lives am I able to impact and help, right? And so, Camille, did you have a question?
I would like to chime in on that.
Sure, yeah.
Because we have members who think that sell is a 4-letter word.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about financial sustainability.
Yeah.
If I can't make enough money helping heal the world through my message, then I have to go back and get a day job. And many of the people on today's call or listening to the recording or in our circles really get that, because they're either in the middle of the struggle, do I, don't I, or they've gone back to, and their heart breaks a little bit. So when we talk about marketing, and when we talk about sales, and when we talk about increasing influence, it's about, to me, it's about helping heal the world. If there was no money attached, I couldn't afford to pay the staff and the contractors who support the work of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm really glad you raised that. Like, and this is why, Camille and I had talked about this. We're going to be talking about this more in Manhattan Beach at the annual convention, because a lot of what's in your way as holistic practitioners is your own limiting beliefs around selling and what that means to help and impact other people. And, but, when you flip it around, if you pay $10,000 for something, you want to bet you're showing up for the meetings, because you got a lot of skin in the game, right? And when you deny other people the opportunity to put skin in the game by paying you, you actually get in the way of them being in the right mind space to have a breakthrough. So I want you to think about that when you do your book, and think about it as a marketing piece. Because I get it, a lot of people who are really wired to help the world have trouble thinking in terms of marketing and sales, because it feels schmarmy or icky to them. Like, and I know you guys get what I'm talking about, because I've met some of you, and I struggle with this too, trust me. Because any of you who've met me know I'm like, really? The numbers don't mean anything to me other than that they're awesome measures of whether or not I am shifting the planet, right? And so, but really think about it. When you let someone else put skin in the game, that makes a big difference. So it's really important. Marketing isn't an evil game the world invented to take you over to the dark side. It's a toolkit that smart, conscious, enlightened people created to help you help others, right? And when you think of it that way, and then you can think of your book as a marketing piece, it makes a big difference, right? So let's begin with the end in mind, and then we'll kind of work forward to that, right? A best-selling book, here it is in a nutshell. A best-selling book is nothing more than a word-of-mouth epidemic around your book. In other words, you need a couple hundred highly influential people all talking about your book all at the same time. And so for that to happen, you need relationship with a couple hundred highly influential people. That's why, if you do one thing and one thing only, get yourself to Manhattan Beach, come to the national convention, right? Because you need friendships and relationships with other people who believe in the same things you do. Because a big part of what I teach, and I know, Camille, you teach this too, is you want to have, you never want to be endorsing or recommending someone who you don't legitimately love their work, right? So you want to get yourself into environments where there are people that you really resonate with and really connect with, because then you can help each other. I promise you there'll be people at that convention that if you shouted them out, if you talked about them to your following or posted them on your Facebook, it would make a profound difference to them. And they can do the same for you. And so a book campaign is nothing more than getting really intentional about that. Like, and huge thank you to you, Camille. When Mass Influence came out, some of you may have noticed Camille was one of the first people shouting it from the rooftops, because, her and I are not only allies, we're friends. We deeply love each other's work and love what each other's creating in the world. Anytime she's coming out with something new, that's why I'm doing this call today, right? I'm not making money on this. I'm doing this because of my commitment to Camille as a friend. When you have, dozens or even hundreds of friends like that, where you deeply have each other's back, your ability to put a book on the bestseller list really changes exponentially. In fact, it was humbling when Mass Influence came out, because we were expecting it to go bestseller. We knew we had a big campaign going, but within a couple hours, it had not only gone bestseller on Kindle, but we had released the hard copies. And by the end of the first day, each version of the book was a bestseller. And it started going bestseller in other countries too. Like, I don't even know anyone in Italy. And there was countries it was going bestseller. And I'm like, how does that happen? It's an English book in a non-English speaking country, and it's hitting the bestseller list there, right? But the cool thing is, that's what a word-of-mouth epidemic is. When your friends start talking about it at that level, then they have friends in other places that you might not even have met that start to pick up the conversation, right? And so really, a lot of what we teach in terms of how to create a best-selling book is around that. Like, how do you build those relationships, and how do you create some intentionality around creating a best-selling book? Is this making sense to everyone so far?
Yes.
Okay.
So I just want to chime in, and like, that's like, we start with social media, right? And anybody who is on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter is going to see that the Holistic Chamber is there, Teresa is there. Like, we start creating relationships on social media these days because it's there. It's a great free tool for some people. Some people pay for higher levels of access. And then we come together in live events like, yes, the conference in Manhattan Beach. It's right next door to LAX. Like, what a logical place, because that allows us to take our connections that happen online and create the real life connection. When I think of like Oprah and Deepak Chopra and Dr. Oz, part of their influence is what they're doing online, and also like, they have fun because their friends and their colleagues are the same people. And that's because they're also coming together in person to really pull the synergy. Anyways, I'm getting chills. Back to you, Teresa.
So let's talk about some of the specific things you guys need to know, because a lot of people don't even understand what a best-selling book is, right? And there's two schools of thought in the industry as to what makes a bestseller. And the first school of thought you'll hear amongst self-publishing companies a lot, and that is that your book becomes a bestseller after you've sold so many copies. And you'll hear different numbers. Like, you'll hear that it's after 1,000 books, after 3,000, after 10,000. Apparently we have our own number in Canada, but nobody agrees with what number that number is either. And the challenge with using that system is that if you talk that way, anyone in the mainstream publishing industry tends to think you're an idiot. Because in the mainstream publishing industry, to the big publishing houses, a best-selling book means you're on one of the bestseller lists. And to them, there is nothing else that dictates a best-selling book other than that. And there are 5 big lists out there. Sorry, let me put my hand up where you can see it. I'm French-Canadian, so I talk with my hands a lot. And so you'll see me moving down here. But so the 5 big lists. New York Times, by far, is the Olympic gold standard for bestseller lists, especially in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., it's a well-known list, but it might not be the preeminent list in the minds of the general public. In the States, by far, it's the preeminent list. The other big ones, Amazon. Amazon is the most widely recognized internationally. So if you go outside continental North America, Amazon is actually in some countries better known than New York Times. So depending on whether your focus is US centric or whether you're wanting to go global, that might dictate some of your choices. The other 3 big ones are Barnes & Noble, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal. And the latter 2 being most specific for business books. So they tend to not be as preeminent if you're a fiction or a biographical writer. Now, what I normally suggest for people is, well, let me tell you how the lists work. So New York Times is an order and scale of magnitude more difficult than any other list to get on. And that's because they track book sales either for a two-week period or a full month period, depending on which list you're going for. Some of the New York Times lists are monthly, some are bi-monthly. And only 15 books make it onto New York Times. So it's the top 15 books in their categories. Their categories are very broad. Like, business is an entire category. There's no subcategories for business. And it's pretty much every point of sale in continental United States, like all the big box stores, Borders, Amazon, Barnes, as well as 200 independent points of distribution that nobody really knows for sure what they are, but anyone who understands the industry could probably guess. They're the big independent bookstores in the major cities around the U.S. And so the other challenge with New York Times is it is also the most gamed list. There is an organization out there that enables people to buy their way onto New York Times. I hate to say it, but really it's the only way to describe it. If you're very wealthy, you can give them $500,000 or up, and they will keep buying your book and making it look like your book is rising on the New York Times bestseller list. And so it's kind of like being in the Olympics and you're competing with a third to half the field or on steroids. And so it can make it very difficult. So let me just say, New York Times is not a game for the faint of heart. The average book that makes it onto New York Times probably had a 6-month-long campaign, spent a budget of $250,000, and did a major media campaign. So you have to be really good enough on the news that you'd be getting on shows like Oprah and Good Morning America, right? And so that is actually achievable. And yet it's kind of like the equivalent of playing in the big leagues in sports. You want to get into the big leagues, you got to get really good at the junior leagues so that the big teams will pick you up, right? And I use a lot of sports analogies, especially hockey, so just forgive me. I'm Canadian. But, so what I normally recommend is that people make a run for Amazon. Amazon is the most widely recognized list in the world next to New York Times. And it's a lot more, I won't say it's easy, but it's a lot more doable. Christina, I think you mentioned that you're already at #1 international bestseller. Yay. It's a lot of work, but it's very achievable on Amazon, especially if you launch your Kindle version, because you can push the Kindle version onto the list in many countries. And, Christina, do you want to comment? Has having that credential changed people's relationship to you? Has it changed the way they listen to you and appreciate their work? What has this credential, has it made a difference for you?
Yeah, well, I got a few clients out of it. So I followed a program called Self-Publishing School, and it was just step-by-step how to write the book, how to get it to #1 on the Amazon International Bestseller. And it worked, so that was great. But what came out of it was actually a lot more confidence in myself.
Beautiful.
And right away I attracted several clients. One of them was my first high-end client, and I felt comfortable or just full enough to ask for that bigger ticket price, which you were talking about before, people going down the funnel. And it really shifted all of that for me. So I guess people see me differently because people were willing to pay a lot more money for my services.
It makes a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's interesting, that can sound selfish at first, right? But really, if people are paying more money for your services, it means they have more skin in the game and they're more committed. The breakthroughs will come faster and quicker and more powerfully for them. Are you finding that?
It was amazing. I really felt energetically how different that experience was. That particular client, I was able to go so much deeper with her. And you're right, she had incredible breakthroughs because more was invested. It's the same as when I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on the programs that I've been a part of. Yes, I'm going to show up and put way more effort into it if it's rather than a $40 session. Yeah, I mean, that's something Lisa Sasevich actually teaches, right? Which is she charges $100,000 to get into her advanced mastermind. You pay $100,000 for a program, you want to bet you're doing your homework. You know what I mean? There's no way you're not completing. Whereas if you're selling a program for $47, people are kind of oh, maybe I'll get to it tomorrow. So it's really something to think about, right? And the best-selling book can be an important part of that funnel that draws people toward you, where you get to that level of trust where you can really significantly impact their lives, right? So very cool. Okay.
Can I just chime in with, when you're a successful business person, healer, or business support professional, there is room for compassion and doing pro bono work or providing scholarships. And very successful business people know that there is a place and a time for that level of compassion and generosity. Oprah, as an example, puts a lot of money out into the world through the foundation. she's in a position to do that because she's financially successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is very appropriate to find the tools and create the balance that allows you to figure out what's the right balance for you. And that's part of the purpose of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. Is we recognize that there are some people who can't afford the high-end products. So if we create a book that they can afford to start with, then we've given them a nice starting place that's going to get them to the point of being able to sign up for the higher level products and services when they're ready, and it becomes financially sustainable and supportive for you, for us. And again, the more skin they get in the game, the more it clicks and clicks and clicks for everybody. So
beautiful. Okay, so who's got questions? Who has specific things you want me to address now that we've set some context? I think I see Gracia. Did I say it right? Risha. I said it wrong. My apologies. Brisha waving her hand. Brisha, what can I?
Well, I do have specific questions, and possibly I would just like some resources for those programs that you use to, follow the dots to get to the international bestseller. And also, I don't know if this is just too specific, but I'm just curious. Yeah. I kind of struggled with whether or not to make my book into a Kindle version.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's easy enough to do as far as I understand. And then when you give that away, does that count towards creating the bestseller, or is that just a way of getting it out there so that more people tell their friends?
Okay, I love it. That was like 10 questions. Let me see if I can remember them all.
I want to know it all.
So let me start with, and this is a big topic. Like, I actually teach 2 12-week-long programs on this. You can get little mini programs on this. You can get big, long programs on this. And, I generally find, something you might not know about me if I didn't tell you, so I'm going to tell you. I used to race cars. I'm actually a former Canadian national champion for autoslalom for ladies. And, one of the expressions we used to have at the racetrack is sometimes you got to slow down to speed up.
Mm.
And what that meant was that if you hit the corners too fast and you were off on your lines and stuff, you wouldn't win the race, right? And so sometimes you think pressing on the grass full throttle will get you there faster, but it's really who navigates the course best who actually is victorious at the end of the day, right? Mm-hmm. And a book is a lot like that. We actually delayed the Mass Influence launch by a whole year, not because the book wasn't written, but because I really wanted to think through, what do I want to do with this launch? And even then, in hindsight, I'm wishing I had added 3 more months, because had I done it differently, it would have launched differently. But as a result of delaying that long, our launch was huge, because I was out building partnerships. And, as a result, the stature of that book, it launched last October. It's remained on the bestseller list in several countries solidly since then. Now, that's different than using one of these quick win schemes that just blips you onto the list and blips you off. And this is why Camille and I are committed to continuing this conversation. I'll be talking about this more on stage in Manhattan Beach, because a lot of it is like, who are you building partnerships with? And are you really thinking through your setup and what you want it to do and what's your end game? So let me deal with some of the specifics you asked there, and see, you're probably going to have to ask a couple of your questions again, because I don't know if I remember them all. But you talked about, is it a good idea to do the Kindle, and does it count if the Kindle's free too? So I would say, first of all, hell yes, do a Kindle. Pardon me for swearing, but I'm actually from the backwoods. But yes, do a Kindle, because, first of all, the book is part of the outer part of your marketing funnel. Right? And so we gave the Kindle of Mass Influence away for free. I would at least make it very low cost, because you don't want money to be in the way of anyone building a relationship with you. Some of the people who are reading the book October, November may be my clients in 15 years.
Right.
It might take them that long to start to implement what I do and teach at the free level enough that they start to move toward the advanced stuff. And that's okay. Everyone moves at their own pace. Some people read that book and the next day they were like, oh my God, I want to join the Evolutionary Business Council and tell me, where do I get more? I'm on fire. Teresa, how can I get more involved? Right? And that's okay. People will move toward you at their own pace. And some people won't resonate with you, and that's also okay. Right? Yeah. But you need to think through your system. And any of you who've read Mass Influence know, if you read Mass Influence, it recommends you do my 30-day influence challenge, which is just 2-minute exercises every day. We send you a quick email, or you can watch them on video, and it gets you to like flex your influence muscle, right? It's just like a little exercise every day that helps you build influence. In fact, if any of you want to do that, go see massinfluencethebook.com and sign up. Not only would those be good exercises to help you in terms of building your own influence so you can create your bestseller launch, but you can look how I built my marketing funnel. Look how I created a lead capture, it's called, out of my book. I invited people to come somewhere where I got their email address, and my book also invites people to connect with me on Facebook and LinkedIn. You might notice I mention social media a lot in my book, because I don't care how people connect with me. If they're inspired by my book, I just want them to stay in conversation with me. And I know you guys get this because I know I'm speaking to the enlightened. But high pressure sales, you all know they don't work. I mean, they may work, but they have very high return rates. They don't resonate with who any of you are. People will buy from you when they're ready to buy from you. You know, and maybe they don't buy from you. Maybe they buy from 3 people down, but that person sends someone back to you in future. It doesn't matter, right? One of the reasons I send a lot of people to Camille is not everyone is ready for the sport we play in the Evolutionary Business Council, right? And the Holistic Chamber is also a change agent organization on this planet, and I'm deeply in love with what she does. I would sing Camille's praises from the rooftop. Thank you. Right? Because I know the impact that the holistic chambers of commerce are having on the world, right? It used to be people thought of holistic medicine in the same sense as snake oil, right? And now it's becoming mainstream. In fact, so much so that like in Canada, my last doctor, I was saying to her, my holistic nutritionist gave me a list of stuff I need to talk to you about. And she's like, oh yeah, okay, show it to me. And she's like, oh, well, I don't know anything about these 3 things. Get her to send me some articles, you know?
Yay.
I'm like, yay, I now have a health team where my mainstream doctor and my holistic nutritionist and you know, I have like 8 different people that coach me. I'm trying to remember the names of some of them, right? But they're all working together. So you really want to think about there's nothing to hurry up and do is the main point here, right? Think through how you're doing your launch carefully. And also a really big part of this is, who are you in relationship with? Mm-hmm. A big part of the influence game, and this is so easy. It's like when you get it, you're going to laugh, right? Influence is a lot like breathing. It really is. You all had to learn how to breathe in the first minute you were alive. Was something you'd never done before, and it was uncomfortable and painful. You probably cried while you were learning to breathe. And then once you got it, you never thought about it ever again. It simply became a part of who you were, that you breathe. Once in a while you forget to breathe in stressful moments of life, and somebody has to say, Risha, breathe. Rosanna, breathe, right? It happens. But for the most part, breathing's not something you ever have to think about. And influence, which is really the core skill you need to build a best-selling book, influence is a lot like breathing, right? And it really comes down to this one principle. You can't make yourself famous or influential. Mm-hmm. You can only ever give influence to someone else, and they can give it back to you. Dr. Shonda Parent talks about this a lot. She calls it a cycle of reciprocity, right? And really, that's how we build relationships with other people. You've been seeing Camille and I do it on this call, right? Because we're in you guys probably know this already. Camille and I are in tight alliance. We don't make money off each other. We're just deeply committed to each other in business. And as a result, a lot of money flows because of that. Right? But it's, yeah.
And people are going to spend their money somewhere.
Yes.
Right? They're either going to, for example, the drugstore to pick up a prescription.
Yeah.
Or the nutritionist to learn more about what they should be eating, or to the yoga instructor for yoga or Pilates, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
People are spending their money. So by collaborating, like what Teresa and I do, like what goes on in our Holistic Chamber of Commerce meetings, and yes, of course, at the conference, we're just giving people a more holistic and natural place to spend what they're already spending.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, and I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of you in Manhattan Beach. I think, no, really, come up and introduce yourself to me because I want to meet you, right? So, you know, a big part of learning how to play this game is learning how to routinely give influence to other people. And that's where you want to start picking who do you admire their work? And they don't have to be perfect, but you got to resonate with them, right? It's not like, you know, Camille and I make mistakes. We both do things that are sloppy. Sometimes we have to have conversations to get things cleaned up, right? Because we're human beings like the rest of the planet. But do you really resonate with what somebody else is teaching, right? And so it's really important to start building those relationships. And the best way to do that is to start singing the praises of other people. The more you send energy to other people, the more they're going to send it back to you. And that's why, like, you want to practice this skill, do my little 30-day influence challenge. It'll really help you, you know. But that's how you build a best-selling book. Now, I suspect, though, some of you got, like, more technical questions. And Bricia, I think I might have even missed a couple that you asked me.
That's good. I mean, I feel like I got...
Okay, so who else has specific questions that you're wondering about? Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
I'm just curious, and I'm sorry I'm new to your work.
That's okay.
I'm wondering about if you thought about or could talk about the wisdom of, on Kindle, giving it away free versus charging like 99 cents, because I've read about that and I've seen people do that.
Yeah. I'm in the school of thought, give it away for free, at least for the first while. Like Mass Influence will probably be free for the first year. And then we're still going to debate whether we keep it free. But because for me, it's a major marketing tool. I'm not worried. To me, a book is not something to make money on, right? And that having said, there's enough people out there that want the physical copy or want the Audible. I would recommend actually that you do an Audible at the same time if you've got the budget for it. And I've got resources I can recommend there. I love Tina Dietz, her work. You know, if you launch the Kindle, once it gets the credential you need, you can put up all the other versions of the book. And people will start paying you money because there's a lot of energy around your book. Actually, if I could go back and do it all over again, the one thing I do different is we didn't launch the Audible right away. We waited 4 or 5 months to launch the Audible just because we had enough on our plate and we just thought, oh, we'll do the Audible later. But in hindsight, that first week of the launch, I must have had 50 to 100 people ask me, do you have an Audible? I think it's something like, I'm just doing these numbers for memory, but in 2015, I think that it was like 1.5 million more Audibles sold than Kindle, including all the free Kindles that were downloaded.
Wow.
So that's how big Audible's getting right now. And that's because a lot of people, and Audibles aren't a free version of the book. So if you're doing an Audible, don't make your Audible free. It's like the Ferrari of books, right? A lot of people want to listen to books while they're running, jogging, driving in the car, doing other stuff. And so they'll pay the extra $17 for the Audible. And I think, you know, it's worth thinking about. I think the average Audible takes, you know, $2,000-$3,000 to put together those. So it's not cheap if you want to do it right. And I don't recommend, that's one thing I don't recommend doing yourself. It's very difficult to get a good Audible and try and do a home version of it unless you are a voiceover talent. it's in my world, if you've got the budget, that's something that's worth it to do at the same time. And that's where, who cares if you slow down your launch by 6 months so that you can get it all done? In my world, that's worth it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Everybody's thinking.
Well, I'm going to ask a question. It's been a long time, and I think this might be similar to somebody else's question. Teresa, you might remember this, right?
Yes, I love that book.
Oh, thank you. This is my book, right? But it came out.
For any of you who are listening on the audio, Camille's holding up a copy of False Starts right now, and it's a really fun book. I love it.
Somebody called it the backstory behind my tattoo. And somebody else said it was dark. So, I started the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. I came from a place where I needed so much healing, right? I didn't just want to surround myself with healers. I thought the whole world should be covered with healers. Mm. But this book came out in 2014. Is it something that it would make sense to refresh it, update it, re-release it with new bits and pieces? Or does it make more sense to focus on an entirely new book, or just take the same old book and do a new promotional campaign?
I would say yes to all of the above. Any of those could be good strategies, right? Really, any of them could be good. I would say the answer to that question is in your own inner guidance. What would be the most fun for you and the most downstream? Pick that strategy and lean into it. If it's more fun to you to write a whole new book, write a whole new book. If it's more fun for you to release an Audible, release an Audible. Just keep moving forward, right? Don't stand in one place and get stagnant. Your life is just a game you're inventing, right? And, the biggest part of the game, though, part of it is you need your own, if you're a hockey player, you need your own slap shot. You need to be able to skate really fast. You need your own equipment. And a book is like the equivalent of your slap shot or your hockey skates or whatever, right? But a big part of it is you also need to be able to pass the puck, right? And that's your relationships with all the other players on the rink. That's why I think, truthfully, in the Holistic Practitioner, if you put one thing on the calendar, save the dates right now and get yourself to Manhattan Beach in November. Camille, remind me the dates for Manhattan.
It is November 4th and 5th. So
you can tell I travel all over. I can't remember what dates I'm in what city. But November 4th and 5th, I'll be there. So you can not only come and meet Camille, but you can come and meet me, right? Because a big part of the problem that a lot of people have, and this is one of those subtle ones, we don't realize we have it, but it's in our way. I would put this in the don't know what we don't know realm. Is that we think it's our own toolkit and it's our own equipment or the strategies that we do that's most in our way for why we're not iconic and really famous, right? And while that's not untrue, it's kind of like the hockey player who says, if I could just skate faster and had better skates and a better stick, I'd be frickin' Wayne Gretzky, right? And the reality is, yes, skates are important, sticks important, all of those things are important. And the reason that Wayne Gretzky is iconic of all time as a hockey player is that he led the league not in scoring, but in assists. He passed the puck and set up the plays for every people so frickin' brilliantly that everyone on his team loved and adored him. People would crawl through glass for the chance to play on the same team or the same line as Wayne Gretzky. And if you were on the opposite team, aside from him, you were quaking in your boots if Wayne was skating down the rink because you had no idea where the puck was going. It was going somewhere because he set up the plays. He made everybody else look good. And that comes down to who are you in relationship with? Who are you in relationship with? And that's why organizations like the Holistic Chamber of Commerce become so important, because it's your opportunity to get in relationship with like-minded individuals. And I know I'm kind of flogging a dead horse here, but it ain't a dead horse. It's a live horse that's going to get up and run for you, right? It's all about who do you play with, because no one succeeds trying to play hockey with only one person on the rink. Who's on your team?
And you can't become a bestseller without people who are talking about your book.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't buy all your own book. And again, that's the relationships you have, people who know, love, not just like, right? Know, love, and trust you, respect your work, because they're either going to buy it or they're going to download it, and they're going to, more importantly, talk about it and share it with their friends. That's how you become a bestseller.
Yeah, beautiful. I think we're pretty much coming up to the top of the hour here, and I think we're more or less through the questions, Camille. Can I just ask, as a service to people, especially those listening on the record, can you actually tell people a little bit about how they can get to Manhattan Beach and where they can sign up? Because I think there's a price hike coming up, so you guys want to buy this soon.
Yes.
Do you mind doing that? I know the call's more about bestseller, but we'll be talking about this more in Manhattan Beach, and I think it would be worth it for people to know how to get themselves there.
Thank you. Thank you. Just like you shared so much information. This was great. Manhattan Beach is 5 miles from LAX. So easy, convenient, affordable to get to. Southwest even flies there, for those of you who know and love the heart-centered airline. Friday the 4th, Saturday the 5th. Prices are going up on Saturday, October 1st. So when we send the follow-up email, we're going to include a link to tinyurl.com/HCC first ever 2. Don't ask. Again, what we said earlier, life and business are messy. But tinyurl.com/HCC first ever 2 will get you all the details. Teresa is the keynote speaker, and everything else we're doing is a panel. Because one of the things you pointed out, Teresa, which really resonates so highly with me, is for each of us, the tools we need are a little bit different. Just like we all found a different path to health and wellness. Some of us love chiropractic, some it's all about the nutrition or acupuncture or massage or Reiki. Same with building your business. So we're using panels and panels of experts so that you can see the different paths that we've all taken to creating success for ourselves and our clients and our patients and our customers. Beautiful. Anyways, there you have it.
Here's what I'm going to suggest. So I'm going to just invite you all, whether you're here live with us right now or whether you're listening to this as a recording, lean in right now and just start. And as you run into stumbling blocks, if you send your questions in to me or Camille, I'll address your questions in Los Angeles at Manhattan Beach. The bigger ones I'll address from stage. If it's something that's more technical and tough and you're not quite sure what to do next, come find me in the room and we'll talk about it. Because I'm really committed that you guys can really step forward and lean in here. You guys get that you're change agents of the world and really, doing something big here. And I want you to succeed. So come find us. Let us know what your questions are, and we'll make sure that you get your questions answered at Manhattan Beach.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to be with us today live and to listen to the recording. Just the fact that you're taking time out of our crazy, hectic, how do we balance it all schedules. Teresa and I both really appreciate it, and we look forward to meeting you and seeing you in person in just about 6 weeks. depending
Yeah.
on when you're listening.
I look forward to meeting you all in person too. Camille, thank you so much for having me on. This was really a blast.
Thank you.